He introduced her like a joke. "This is Maria," Clifford said with a smirk, loud enough for the cameras. "My maid. She just helps around the house." The room laughed the way rich rooms laugh, polite, practiced, sharp at the edges. Maria stood beside him, smile frozen in place, shame burning behind her eyes. Then the CEO walked in, looked straight at her, and said one sentence that drained the color from Clifford's face. Because the woman he had reduced to house help was about to step onto that stage, and he was about to learn, in front of everyone, what it costs to make someone small. Clifford stared at the email like it was a golden ticket. Whitmore Holdings Annual Black Tie Gala. Invitation only. In the fluorescent quiet of his cubicle, his heart thumped too loudly. He could hear the office around him, keyboards clicking, printers humming, laughter from the break room, but it all sounded far away now, like it belonged to a different life. 3 years. 3 years of staying late when everyone else went home. 3 years of laughing at jokes he didn't find funny. 3 years of learning how to speak in the smooth, careful language of corporate rooms. Never too passionate, never too honest, always strategic. And now, finally, the invitation. In Clifford's mind, this gala wasn't just a party, it was a doorway. It meant the right people had noticed him. And in Clifford's world, being noticed was everything. He pushed back from his desk so quickly his chair squeaked. He didn't care. His fingers hovered over the keyboard as if the email might disappear if he blinked too hard. Then he called out, voice echoing through their small apartment when he got home that evening. "Maria!" The smell of jollof rice drifted from the kitchen, warm and rich, weaving through the air like comfort. Gospel music played softly from a phone speaker near the sink. The singer's voice tender, steady, like someone reminding you that you are held even when life feels heavy. Maria appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Face soft from cooking, curls pinned back, eyes bright. "Yes, honey?" Clifford turned his laptop toward her, grinning like a boy who'd finally won something. "Look, the company gala. They invited me." Maria leaned closer, reading the elegant words and the crest at the top, her smile widening. "Oh, Clifford, that's wonderful." He watched her face as if he needed her reaction to become real. "You know what this means?" he asked, already feeding the moment like a fire. She nodded, genuinely happy. "It means they're recognizing your hard work." Clifford's smile tightened, not angry, but corrected, like he couldn't let the moment be too small. "It means I'm finally being seen, by the right people." Maria looked up at him, her joy still there, but quieter now, more careful. "It looks fancy," she said gently. "You'll need a tuxedo." Clifford waved a hand. "Already handled." Then he added, like it was obvious, like it was an afterthought. "And you'll come with me." Maria blinked. "Me?" "It's a couples event. Everyone brings their wives." The word wives landed in the room like something precious and heavy. Maria's chest warmed. "Of course," she said softly. "I'll come." Clifford nodded, relief and excitement mixing in his expression. Then, almost casually, he did it. The thing. He said it like advice. "Just don't overdo it." Maria's smile paused. "You know how these corporate types are. I don't want them thinking I'm out of place." Maria tilted her head. "Out of place?" Clifford sighed as if she were being difficult by not reading the invisible rules he had already agreed to. "You know what I mean. Something simple, modest, low-key." Low-key. Maria knew that word. She had learned to translate his language over time. Low-key meant, don't embarrass me. Low-key meant, don't make them look at you too long. Low-key meant, don't remind them that I come from somewhere they might judge. "All right," she said, voice quiet. "Something simple." She turned to go back to the kitchen, but Clifford's voice followed her, too smooth, too rehearsed. "And Maria, when we get there, if anyone asks, just play along if I introduce you differently." Maria stopped.
The gospel singer on the phone held a note that suddenly sounded like a question. "Differently?" she repeated. Clifford waved dismissively, like he was brushing crumbs off a table. "It's nothing serious. Some of them are high society. I can't explain everything about us in one night. It's just etiquette." Maria turned fully now, dish towel still in her hands. "What do you mean, Clifford?" Her voice was calm, but there was a tremble at the bottom of it. "Introduce me how?" Clifford hesitated, then spoke like he was choosing words he hoped wouldn't sound as ugly as the idea. "Maybe I'll say, you help at home," he said, "just until they get to know me better." Maria's eyes narrowed slightly. "You mean tell people I'm your maid?" Clifford's expression hardened, like a mask sliding into place. "Don't make it sound dramatic. It's just business etiquette. These people are judgmental. You wouldn't understand how corporate circles work." Maria's fingers tightened around the dish towel. "I understand respect, and pretending I'm your maid doesn't sound like respect." Clifford exhaled sharply, impatient now. "Maria, can you not make this a thing? Just one night. I'm trying to build a future for us. Once I'm promoted, everything changes." That sentence should have sounded like love, but it landed like a bargain. Maria stood there, looking at the man she married, the man who once held her hand at bus stops and looked at her like she was home. Now he looked at her like a risk. The silence between them grew heavy. Finally, Maria nodded once. "If that's what you need," she said. Clifford's shoulders loosened with relief, like he'd won. "That's my girl," and he kissed her forehead like affection could erase disrespect. That night, he slept easily. Maria did not. She lay beside him in the dark, listening to his breathing, staring at the ceiling as if it might give her answers. How could he say it so easily? How could he reduce her to a role that made him feel bigger? Somewhere inside her, a quiet vow formed. Not angry, not dramatic, just steady. "One day, Clifford, you will see me for who I really am." And in the dark, while he dreamed of chandeliers and applause, Maria's eyes stayed open.
The week leading up to the gala felt like a campaign. Clifford bought a new tuxedo and spent too much time in front of mirrors, practicing smiles that looked effortless but felt stiff. He polished his shoes until they shone like they had their own light. He rehearsed how he would greet senior partners. He read about the CEO's favorite charities and hobbies the way some people read sacred texts. Maria watched quietly, not because she didn't care, but because she was learning that caring alone could not fix what was shifting in Clifford. When she asked what she should wear, Clifford barely looked up. "Something decent," he said, adjusting his cufflinks. "That beige dress from church, the long one, simple, clean." Maria nodded. It wasn't an argument anymore. It was information. On the night of the gala, rain threatened the sky but never fell, clouds heavy, like they were holding something back. Maria stood by the door in a sleek cream dress, modest but elegant, fitted in a way that honored her shape without begging for approval. Her curls were pinned neatly, her gold earrings catching the light when she moved. Clifford glanced at her, quick, assessing. He said. "Not bad. Let's go." Maria gave a small smile. "Thank you." The drive to the venue was quiet, the city lights brightening as they approached downtown. Glass towers reflected neon. Luxury cars glided through traffic like everything was already arranged for them. Clifford kept rehearsing under his breath. Maria looked out the window and held her hands together to stop them from trembling. When they arrived, cameras flashed at the entrance. People stepped out of cars like they were stepping onto a stage, gowns shimmering, suits perfect, laughter loud and effortless. Clifford straightened his tie, shoulders lifting as if he could put confidence on like his tuxedo. "Remember what I said," he whispered. "Smile, stay polite, don't draw attention." Maria nodded. "Of course." He offered his arm, then withdrew it halfway when he saw coworkers waving. He walked ahead, leaving Maria a step behind.
That was the first small humiliation of the night. Quiet, unannounced, public enough. Inside, the ballroom was gold and white, glittering like a dream built to impress. A live band played soft jazz. Waiters floated between tables carrying trays of champagne and sparkling drinks. Everything smelled expensive: perfume, polished wood, flowers. Maria's breath caught. Not at the luxury, at the coldness. Because the smiles here were practiced and the eyes measured everything like a ledger. Clifford blended in quickly. His laugh became louder than usual. His posture grew bigger. He was acting like a man who belonged, and the desperate part was how badly he needed people to agree. A coworker approached Clifford, eyes moving from Clifford to Maria. "Clifford," the man said, grinning. "Who's the lovely lady?" Clifford chuckled like it was a harmless joke. "Oh, that's Maria. She helps me keep things together at home, my little house manager." The men laughed politely. Maria's smile stayed in place, but something inside her cracked, quietly, like glass under pressure. She excused herself and walked toward the refreshment area. As she passed a mirror, she caught her reflection. Elegant, composed, and somehow reduced. Not by her dress, not by her presence, but by the title he kept wrapping around her like a chain. Somewhere deep in her chest, something began to wake up. The night unfolded like a play Clifford thought he was starring in. He floated from group to group, shaking hands, name-dropping projects, exaggerating his importance in meetings. He spoke like someone who wanted to sound essential, even when he wasn't. Across the room, Maria stayed on the sidelines, sipping juice and observing. She was not jealous. She was not bitter. She was watching him the way you watch someone slowly become a stranger. A young woman with pearl earrings approached Maria near the side of the room. "Excuse me," she said kindly. "I couldn't help noticing your necklace. It's beautiful." Maria touched the pendant gently. "Thank you," she said. "It was my mother's." The woman's face softened. "I'm sorry for your loss. I'm Lydia." They began to talk, and Lydia quickly noticed what others had missed: Maria's calm intelligence. Her words were measured. Her manner was refined without being performative. Lydia tilted her head, curious. "Are you in real estate too?" she asked. Maria's lips curved slightly. "You could say I'm familiar with the industry." Meanwhile, Clifford was across the room trying to impress a senior partner named Collins. "I've been working closely on the Lucky expansion," Clifford boasted. "It's my proposal that really pushed things forward." Collins raised an eyebrow. "Interesting," he said, voice dry. "I thought Mr. Whitmore mentioned someone else advised on that." Clifford waved it off quickly. "I probably contributed more behind the scenes." Collins gave a short, amused breath, almost a laugh, but not friendly, and walked away. Clifford watched Collins leave, frustration flickering. Then he saw Maria chatting comfortably with Lydia and a few others, and something ugly tightened in him. He walked over and placed a hand on Maria's shoulder, smiling like a husband. "Sweetheart," he said, voice sugary, "can you grab me another drink?" Maria's smile faded slightly, but she nodded and walked away. Behind her, Clifford heard a woman whisper, not quietly enough, "She's so graceful. Is she really his maid?" Clifford forced a laugh. She just helps around the house, keeps things organized." The women looked unconvinced. When Maria returned with the drink, she heard the tail end of the conversation. She set the glass down carefully. "Your drink," she said, voice neutral. Clifford looked up, startled by the chill. "Thanks," he muttered. Maria walked away, eyes shining, refusing to let tears fall in a room that would treat them like entertainment. Dinner was served: roasted chicken, spices, wine. Laughter rose in waves. Clifford laughed too loudly at everything. His insecurity had become a performance. "You're on fire tonight," someone teased. "You'd think you own the place." Clifford grinned. "Maybe one day I will." Maria's gaze drifted toward the stage. Then the room shifted, because the CEO had arrived, Mr. Whitmore. He entered like the air itself made space for him.
Tall, silver-haired, charismatic, authority carried him the way confidence carries a man who doesn't need to prove anything. People stood slightly, instinctive respect. Clifford nearly tripped, rushing to greet him. "Mr. Whitmore," Clifford said, breathless. "An honor, sir." Whitmore smiled politely. "Good evening, Clifford." His eyes flicked to Maria. Their gazes met. Something passed between them. Recognition, quiet warmth. Whitmore nodded once, almost imperceptibly. Maria inclined her head respectfully. "Enjoy the evening." He moved on. Clifford exhaled like he'd just been blessed. "You saw that?" Maria whispered. "He spoke to me. That's what I mean. Career-changing." Maria said nothing. As music resumed, couples began to dance. Clifford asked a co-worker's wife instead of Maria, laughing it off. "She's too shy for these things," he said, as if he hadn't just refused to treat her like his wife all night. Maria stood near the balcony, looking out at the night sky. She wasn't angry anymore. She was sad, because the man who once loved her quietness now used it as an excuse to erase her. When she turned back, she saw Whitmore watching her from across the room. His assistant leaned in and whispered something. Maria caught a fragment. "She's here." Whitmore nodded once. "Good." Part 3. The Stage. As the night deepened, whispers began to move through the room like wind through expensive perfume. "That's her," someone murmured. "The one Clifford said is—" As the night deepened, whispers began to move through the room like wind through expensive perfume. "That's her," someone murmured. "The one Clifford said is his maid." "Maid?" another voice replied. "She carries herself better than half the people here." Maria kept her posture calm, refusing to shrink. Lydia returned, eyes still studying Maria like a puzzle she was close to solving. "You really do look familiar," Maria said. "Have we met? Maybe at a conference?" Maria shook her head lightly. "Perhaps you've read something I wrote," she said. "I used to write on property law and investment ethics." Lydia's eyes widened. "Wait, Maria Fernandez?" Maria's smile was small, private. "I used to be," she said quietly. Before Lydia could ask more, a hush swept across the ballroom like someone lowered the volume of the world. Mr. Whitmore stepped onto the stage. The microphone caught his voice clean, deep, steady. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "thank you for being here tonight." Clifford clapped enthusiastically, already imagining the applause could spill over onto him. "Before we begin the awards," Whitmore continued, "I'd like to acknowledge someone whose vision has helped shape this firm's future." Clifford leaned forward, certain he was about to hear the name of a senior partner. "Our new international partnership owes its foundation to her insight and integrity," Whitmore said. "Tonight's host, my goddaughter." Clifford's hands were still clapping when Whitmore said her name, Maria Fernandez Whitmore. The room froze. Heads turned. A wave of shock moved through the crowd. Gasps, whispers, sudden attention snapping into place. Maria rose, graceful, composed, not surprised, not triumphant, just present. Clifford's hands dropped into his lap like they had forgotten how to function. "What?" he whispered, voice cracking. Maria walked toward the stage, cream dress flowing under the chandeliers, every step echoing louder than any applause. Clifford watched, mouth open, heart pounding, not with pride, but with dread. On stage, Maria took the microphone. "Thank you, Uncle," she began, voice smooth, steady. "I'm honored to stand here tonight." Her eyes swept over the crowd, calm and controlled. "My journey with Whitmore Holdings began quietly, behind the scenes." Clifford felt the words land like stones. Maria continued, her tone gentle but precise. "I've learned that true leadership isn't volume, it's vision, dignity, humility, respect." The room listened, because Maria didn't speak like someone trying to impress them. She spoke like someone who didn't need their approval. "Those values build stronger foundations than any skyscraper," she said. Then softly, like a truth meant to reach the people hiding behind smiles. "Sometimes the people we overlook are the ones holding everything together." A toast was raised, applause thundered,
Cameras flashed, and Clifford sat motionless, face pale, stomach sinking, because the woman he called his maid had just hosted the entire gala. Maria ended with calm grace. Whitmore stepped beside her, and pride in his eyes, and as the crowd roared, Clifford realized something brutal. He hadn't just embarrassed her, he'd exposed himself. Around Clifford, the room shifted. People glanced at him, then away, as if looking directly would be too uncomfortable. At the next table, someone murmured, "That's his wife." Another voice began, "No, he said she was his," and stopped, the sentence choking on its own shame. A colleague leaned in, half laughing in disbelief. "Guy, this one pass you," he said. Clifford couldn't answer. His mouth felt like sand. Maria stepped down from the stage and people rushed toward her immediately, hands out, compliments spilling, questions flying. Maria navigated them with grace, giving polite answers, never clinging to attention, never shrinking from it either. Then she moved in Clifford's direction. For a brief, foolish second, hope flickered in him. Maybe she'd stop. Maybe she'd look at him. Maybe she'd give him a chance to explain. She did not. Maria walked past him close enough for him to catch the faint scent of her perfume, soft, clean, familiar, and she didn't even glance his way. That absence of attention hurt more than any public insult. Lydia looked at Clifford from across the table, her expression not dramatic, just disappointed. "You introduced her as house help," Lydia said plainly, like a courtroom fact. Clifford's face burned. "It wasn't," he started, but there was no ending to that sentence that made him sound better. Collins, the senior partner Clifford had been trying to impress, leaned in slightly, voice low. "Collins," said, "you know what the problem is?" Clifford swallowed. "It's not that you didn't know who she was. It's that you were comfortable making her small." Then Collins straightened his jacket and walked away like the conversation was already done. Clifford stood, unsteady, scanning the room for Maria. He saw her near Whitmore, speaking with older investors, smiling politely as they spoke. She belonged there in a way Clifford never had. Clifford took a step forward, then another. His heart hammered. He had to speak to her, had to fix this, had to prove he wasn't the man he had been all night. Except he was. He reached her group and forced a smile that felt like broken glass. "Maria," he said softly, "can we talk, please?" Maria turned her head slightly. Her expression didn't change. No anger, no triumph, just composure. "Clifford," she said, like greeting an acquaintance. Whitmore's smile faded. His gaze landed on Clifford like weight. "Clifford," Whitmore repeated, voice calm but sharp underneath. Clifford's throat tightened. "Sir, I didn't know. I didn't know Maria was important," Whitmore added, eyebrow lifting. Clifford froze. Maria spoke before he could drown himself further. "Uncle," she said gently, "give us a moment." Whitmore studied her face, then Clifford's. He gave a slow nod. 2 minutes, he said, calm, controlled, a warning wrapped in politeness. Whitmore walked away, leaving Clifford and Maria in a small pocket of air that suddenly felt cold. Clifford leaned closer, voice dropping, desperate. "Maria, why didn't you tell me?" Maria's eyes held his steady. "Why didn't you ask?" Clifford blinked rapidly. "I did ask," he insisted. "I asked about your day, Maria cut him off gently. "You asked about your day," she said. "You talked at me. You told me what you needed." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't have to. "You didn't ask who I was," she continued. Clifford's throat tightened, eyes burning. "I love you," he whispered. Maria didn't soften. "Love without respect becomes permission," she said. That sentence hit him like a slap he couldn't dodge. "I was under pressure," he tried, voice cracking. "I wanted to impress them. I didn't mean it like that." Maria's tone stayed calm, each word landing with precision. "You didn't mean to humiliate me," she said, "yet you did it easily, like it was natural." Clifford's shoulders sagged. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Maria glanced around. People were still watching, pretending not to. "This is not the place for a scene," she said quietly. "You wanted respect in this room, remember? Then behave like it." Clifford swallowed hard. "What do I do?" Maria studied him for a moment, longer than comfort, shorter than forgiveness. "You leave early," she said, "not as punishment, as protection." His lips trembled. "Are you coming with me?" Maria's answer was immediate. "No." The floor seemed to tilt under him. "Maria, please!" She took a slow breath. "Go home," she said. "We'll talk there." That small mercy was the only thing holding him up. He nodded quickly. "Yes, okay, we'll talk." Maria stepped back as another guest approached her with a smile and an outstretched hand. In one smooth motion, Maria became host Maria again, professional, graceful, untouchable. Clifford stood there, suddenly invisible, watching the room drift away from him like he was no longer worth the effort of attention. For the first time that night, he understood what it felt like to be made small. He drove home alone, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned pale. City lights blurred, not because the road was unclear, but because tears kept rising and he refused to wipe them away. At home, he couldn't sit. He paced the living room, still in his tuxedo, jacket thrown over the couch like a defeated flag. He replayed Maria's words again and again. "You didn't ask who I was." He had asked, hadn't he? "What did you cook today? Did you pay the bill? Why are you so quiet?" Clifford stopped pacing. Those weren't questions about her. Those were questions about the version of her that served his life. An hour later, the door opened. Maria stepped in quietly, heels in her hand, moving like she didn't want noise to announce her entrance. Clifford rushed toward her. "Maria!" She lifted a hand. "Not yet." He froze. Maria placed her heels neatly by the wall, set her clutch on the table, movements controlled like she had learned not to let emotion knock things over. Clifford's voice came out rough. "I'm sorry, I didn't know." Maria looked at him, and for a brief moment something flickered. Sadness, memory, then steadied. "It's late," she said. "Sit." Clifford obeyed, perching on the couch like a student waiting for judgment.
Maria remained standing. "You want to know why I didn't tell you?" she asked. Clifford nodded quickly. "Yes." "Then listen," Maria said. "Not interrupt, not defend, just listen." Clifford's throat tightened. "I promise." Maria drew in a slow breath. "Before I met you," she began, "I had a different life." Clifford stared. "I studied law," she said. "International property law, ethics, investment structures, the rules that shape cities." Clifford's mouth opened slightly. He had never heard this. "My mother got sick," Maria continued, voice steady. "Very sick. I came home. I stepped away from that world to care for her." Clifford's eyes stung. He had known her mother died. He had never asked what it did to her. "For 2 years," Maria said, "my life was hospitals, medication schedules, long nights, and grief you don't talk about at parties." She paused, fingers tightening around her own wrist for a moment. "When she died, I felt empty," she said softly, "like I had served my purpose, and now I didn't know where to put myself." Clifford's eyes flooded. Maria kept going. "Around that time, Uncle Whitmore reached out," she said. "He has mentored me since I was young. He offered opportunities, help, but I wasn't ready." Maria's gaze landed on Clifford. "I wanted a normal life for a while, something quiet." Clifford swallowed. "And that's when I met you," Maria continued, "at the community center." Clifford nodded slowly, remembering. "You were volunteering because your company required community service hours," she said. "Not cruel, just honest. You were frustrated, but you still carried boxes. You still smiled when people watched. Clifford flinched. I noticed that, Maria said. I thought you were trying. He whispered, I was. I believe you were, Maria said. You were kind then. You listened. You asked real questions. You made me laugh when I hadn't laughed in months. Clifford's voice broke. I was real. I was. Maria nodded. Somewhere along the way, you changed, Maria said. Maria walked toward the window, looking out at the night city. When we married, I didn't mention my past because I didn't want it to become the center of our love. I wanted to be loved without credentials, without status. Clifford swallowed hard. So, you tested me, he whispered. Maria turned slowly. I observed you, she said. The silence answered everything else. Clifford's head dropped. I didn't know you were involved with Whitmore Holdings. Maria's expression didn't soften. I didn't involve myself at first, she said, but Uncle Whitmore would call sometimes, ask my opinion, ethics clauses, risk structures, quiet advice. Clifford looked up, shocked. All those nights you said you were reading? I was working, Maria said. Clifford's voice cracked. And the expansion deal? Maria held his gaze. I advised on parts of it. I flagged issues early, suggested safeguards. That's why he said I played a role. Clifford covered his face. God. Maria's voice lowered. Not cruel, just true. You know what's painful, Clifford? She said. It's not that you didn't know I had accomplishments. Clifford's shoulders shook. It's that you assumed I didn't. Her eyes stayed steady. You assumed my quiet meant emptiness. Clifford whispered, broken. I was insecure. I didn't want them to look down on me. Maria stepped closer. So you made me someone they could look down on instead. The room felt silent in a way that hurt. Clifford looked up, tears spilling. I hate myself for that. Maria watched him, face unreadable. I don't need you to hate yourself, she said. I need you to see yourself. Clifford wiped his face with shaking hands. Tell me what to do. Maria exhaled slowly. You stop performing, she said. You stop using people as props to feel big. He nodded rapidly. Yes. And you learn respect, Maria added, not because you're scared of losing me, but because without respect, you can't love anyone properly. Clifford swallowed. And are you leaving me? Maria held his gaze for a long time. Then she said quietly, I don't know.
Morning arrived without mercy. Sunlight spilled through the curtains like nothing in the world had changed, like reputations hadn't cracked and love hadn't fractured the night before. Clifford woke with a dull ache behind his eyes and a heaviness in his chest that made breathing feel intentional. For a few seconds, he didn't remember. Then it all rushed back. The gala, the stage, her name, the way Maria looked through him like he was air. He sat up slowly, the bed beside him untouched, cold. Maria, he called, voice soft, almost afraid of the sound it might make. No answer. He stepped into the hallway and found the guest room door closed. In the kitchen, the kettle was still warm. A single mug sat on the counter. She had made tea and left without saying goodbye. The quiet wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, accusing. Clifford checked his phone. Messages stacked like evidence. Coworkers, friends, people who hadn't spoken to him in months suddenly had opinions. That was wild. Hope you're okay. Man, what happened last night? Then one message stood out. FYI, Mr. Whitmore wants a departmental meeting Monday. Clifford's stomach dropped.
He tried to call Maria, straight to voicemail. He sent a text instead. "Can we talk when you're ready? I'm here." No reply. An hour passed, then 2. Finally, Maria emerged from the hallway dressed simply. White blouse, dark trousers, hair pulled back neatly. No makeup meant to impress, no softness meant to soothe. She looked like herself. Quiet power, quiet distance. Clifford stood immediately. "Good morning," he said. Maria nodded once. "Morning." "I made coffee," he added quickly, like offering proof of usefulness. "Thank you," she said, pouring herself a cup without looking at him. The clink of the mug against the counter sounded louder than it should have. "Are you going to work today?" he asked. "Yes." "I can drive you." "No." One word. Closed door. "Maria," he said, panic creeping into his voice. "I know you're hurt, but shutting me out." She set the mug down gently. "Clifford, I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting my peace." He blinked. "So you're just done talking?" "We talked last night," Maria replied. "You heard me." "I heard you," he said quickly, "and I want to fix this." "Wanting isn't fixing," she said calmly. "I can change." "Then change." The simplicity of it terrified him. "What do you need?" he asked. Maria looked at him fully now. "I need space to breathe without feeling responsible for your growth," she said. His throat tightened. "You're my wife, and I'm a person, not your mirror, not your coach, not your emotional crutch." That one landed deep. She picked up her keys. "Where are you going?" he asked. "To the office, Whitmore Holdings." The name still sounded unreal in his mouth. "Are they talking about me?" Maria paused at the door. "Clifford," she said gently, "they're not obsessed with you. They're obsessed with results and character. Last night wasn't about embarrassment. It was about revelation." His eyes dropped. "I'm sorry." "I know, but regret without growth becomes another performance." She opened the door. "And don't try to do damage control. No explaining, no image repair." "Why?" "Because it won't be about truth. It will be about your image, and your image is what made you cruel." Then she left. The door closed quietly. Clifford stood there long after, staring at the space she had occupied, feeling smaller than he ever had, without anyone trying to make him feel that way. Part 6. The first real look in the mirror. Clifford didn't go to work immediately. He sat on the couch staring at his phone like it contained instructions on how to become someone else. Eventually, he searched for a therapist. He didn't overthink it, didn't compare reviews, didn't rehearse what he would say. He booked the earliest appointment. At work later that day, the atmosphere felt different. Not hostile, worse, polite, controlled. Like everyone had silently agreed to treat him as a man who had shown poor character. No jokes, no extra smiles, no reassurance. Tundai, a colleague who usually joked too much, approached him near the elevator. "My guy, you day?" he asked awkwardly. Clifford nodded. "I'm okay." Tundai's smile faded. "No vex, but you mess up big time." Clifford didn't argue. "I know." "You really didn't know she was connected?" Clifford looked at the elevator doors. "I didn't know her," he said quietly. "Not the way I should have." Tundai blinked, surprised by the honesty. "Damn," he said softly. In the elevator, Clifford stared at his reflection in the mirrored wall. For the first time, he didn't try to straighten his posture or fix his face into confidence. He just looked. Tired eyes, forced confidence carved in lines around his mouth. A man who had spent years acting important instead of being decent. When the elevator doors opened, he walked out quieter than he ever had. That afternoon, he sat in a small office across from a woman named Dr. Harris. She didn't let him hide behind corporate language. Within 10 minutes, she cut through everything. "Why did you choose to humiliate her instead of saying, 'This is my wife'?" she asked. Clifford stared at the floor. "Because I didn't want them to judge me." "So you offered her up to be judged instead," she said gently. "Why?" He tried to laugh it off. The sound died halfway. "Because it felt safer," he whispered. "Safer for whom?" "For me." Dr. Harris paused, letting silence do the work. "When did you learn that safety comes from making someone else smaller?" That question followed him like a shadow. He thought of his father, how his father used to adjust his cheap tie in the mirror and say, "Poor men must act rich or they'll be stepped on." How his father laughed too loudly in rooms full of men who didn't respect him and came home angry at the world. Clifford drove home feeling exposed in a way no public humiliation could achieve. That evening he saw Maria again, briefly, in the building lobby, leaving with a colleague. Confident, calm, belonging. He didn't call out. He watched for a second, then looked away like he didn't deserve to witness it. Part 7. Learning silence. Days passed. Maria didn't scream, didn't threaten, didn't dramatize. She withdrew with discipline. And Clifford began to notice the absence of small kindnesses. No automatic reminders, no checking if he'd eaten, no gentle smoothing of his rough edges. He realized how much of his life had been cushioned by her quiet labor. One evening, Maria came home and placed a folder on the table. "Uncle Whitmore wants me to lead a mentorship program," she said, "for young women entering the industry." Clifford nodded carefully. "That's incredible." She studied him. "You don't sound threatened." "I am," he admitted, "but I'm trying not to turn it into something ugly." Maria nodded. "That's growth." The word didn't feel like forgiveness. It felt like permission to keep going. Part 8. The work nobody applauds. Dr. Harris asked Clifford to volunteer weekly, not for image, not for guilt, to practice seeing people without ranking them. Clifford chose a shelter near the community center where he first met Maria. On his first day, a woman handed him gloves. "Bathroom duty," she said. "If you're too important for that, tell me now." Clifford's face burned. "I'll do it," he said. He scrubbed floors until his back ached. Nobody praised him, nobody called him sir, nobody cared who he was. He went home exhausted and humbled. Maria listened when he told her. She didn't clap, didn't soften, she just said, "Good." And for the first time, Clifford didn't feel cheated by that response. Part 9. The slow rebuild. Weeks turned into months. The apartment grew calmer, though not intimate. Maria shared small updates. Clifford learned to listen without steering everything back to himself. When Maria spoke at a professional event on ethics in real estate, Clifford attended quietly, sat at the back, no spotlight, no announcements. He listened as she spoke about dignity, transparency, and the harm done when people hide behind titles. Every word felt like a mirror. Afterward, he didn't approach her. He left a note instead. "I'm learning not to win you back, but to become someone worthy of loving." Maria read it later. She didn't cry, she didn't smile widely, but she kept it. Part 10. The choice. Months later, Maria asked him to meet at a small cafe. No chandeliers, no audience, no performance. Clifford arrived early, hands wrapped around a cup of tea, breathing slowly. Maria sat across from him. "I'm here for clarity," he replied. He didn't defend, didn't explain away. "I humiliated you because I wanted to feel big," he said. "That's the truth." Maria watched him carefully. "And why did you need to feel big?" he asked. "Because I felt small most of my life, and instead of healing that, I built a mask. And the mask made you cruel." "Yes." Maria sipped her tea. "What has changed?" he asked. "I recognize the instinct now, and I don't feed it." She studied him. "I'm not ready to return to the marriage as it was." He understood. "But I'm open